You are welcome to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. When we take a closer honest look at the legal war waged against R. Kelly, what emerges is a deeply unsettling picture of government overreach, prosecutorial misconduct and a deliberate attempt to destroy a man's career and freedom under the guise of justice. This was not a straightforward case of law enforcement seeking justice for alleged victims. It was a calculated and prejudiced mission with a singular objective: to ensure R. Kelly was stripped of every means necessary to adequately defend himself both financially and legally. From the outset, federal prosecutors supported by corrupt figures within the Bureau of Prisons and various actors in the Department of Justice orchestrated a campaign aimed not just at prosecuting, but also at ensuring conviction at any cost. The tactics employed weren't merely aggressive. They crossed into outright unethical, unconstitutional, and in some instances criminal territory. Those who have closely followed the sequence of events from the initial charges to the multiple trials, understand that this was never about seeking truth. It was about controlling the narrative, manipulating evidence and manufacturing guilt. For anyone who's taken the time to scrutinize the court transcripts, witness testimonies and pretrial motions, it becomes painfully clear how government agents and officers worked together to deny R. Kelly his constitutional rights and circumvent legal protections that every defendant regardless of their notoriety is entitled to. Perhaps most disturbing is the way these prosecutors systematically attacked R. Kelly's financial viability. They understood that a man stripped of his resources would be forced to accept court-appointed or less experienced legal counsel, reducing his chances of mounting an effective defense. Through dubious asset seizures, orchestrated cancellations of business opportunities and the blocking of new music releases, government entities ensured that R. Kelly was isolated financially, a modern-day debtor's punishment administered without due process. It's impossible to ignore the glaring inconsistencies and contradictions in witness testimonies that surface throughout these proceedings. Statements that once painted one narrative were later adjusted to suit the prosecution's changing strategy. Witnesses were coached, pressured and in some cases incentivized to conform their accounts to fit the government's preferred version of events. The sheer variation in these accounts should have raised serious concerns within the justice system itself, yet no corrective action was ever taken. This alone is evidence of a broader conspiracy, a coordinated effort that went beyond prosecutors or prison officers. It seeped deep into the ranks of the DOJ and was rubber-stamped by judges who, rather than serving as impartial arbiters of the law, became willing participants in a prejudicial campaign. Courtrooms, which are traditionally considered the final refuge for fairness when other systems fail, instead became instruments of oppression. The judiciary's role in this case is perhaps the most disappointing of all. Judges are meant to safeguard due process and ensure that every defendant, no matter how unpopular, receives a fair trial free from external pressures or preconceived bias. In R. Kelly's case, however, we witnessed a judiciary that appeared not just indifferent to constitutional violations, but also actively complicit. Repeated adamant denials of legitimate defense motions, the acceptance of questionable evidence and the allowing of tainted testimonies all point to a court system that had already made up its mind long before deliberations began. Even more troubling was the manipulation of jury pools. Potential jurors with neutral or balanced views were struck out, while those predisposed to convict were allowed to remain. This careful curation of jurors ensured that verdicts would favor the prosecution regardless of the weaknesses in their case. The impartiality of the jury, which is supposed to be a pillar of American justice, was sacrificed to secure predetermined outcomes. But it didn't stop there. The Bureau of Prisons, which is an institution tasked with the neutral and humane care of those in custody, became a willing extension of the prosecution's strategy. R. Kelly was subjected to unlawful treatment, denied access to essential legal documents, placed in solitary confinement under questionable circumstances and monitored in ways that violated attorney-client privilege. Such actions were not isolated incidents but part of a larger coordinated strategy designed to wear him down mentally, emotionally and physically. The Department of Justice, rather than intervening to correct these abuses, tacitly endorsed them. Their silence, and at times overt participation, reveals a system more interested in convictions than justice. The DOJ's oversight mechanisms meant to check abuses within its own ranks failed spectacularly in this instance, and their inaction emboldened the misconduct of others. For a government to employ such heavy-handed tactics against one man, stripping him of financial resources, sabotaging his ability to mount a legal defense, manipulating witness testimonies and stacking the jury against him should be a national scandal. Yet these actions were presented to the public under the convenient narrative of protecting society. In reality, it was a gross perversion of power. What we witnessed was not a flawed trial, but a corrupted process from start to finish. When those sworn to uphold the law become its greatest violators, the integrity of the entire justice system is called into question. The R. Kelly prosecutions revealed how easily legal safeguards can be dismantled when prosecutors, prison officials, DOJ officers and judges work together not for justice but for conviction. This case serves as a chilling reminder that legal persecution in modern America can be conducted under the pretense of justice, hiding behind sealed courtrooms, manipulated evidence and compromised juries. The very institutions designed to prevent such abuses were the ones enabling them. If there was ever a case to illustrate the collapse of judicial impartiality and the dangers of unchecked prosecutorial power, it is this one. The courts, by tolerating these practices, have effectively set a precedent where high-profile defendants, particularly those out of favor with the state, can be railroaded through a tainted process without fear of institutional rebuke. As citizens, we must question how such systemic abuse was allowed to occur. The judges involved, rather than curbing the excesses of overzealous prosecutors and prison officials, became accomplices in undermining R. Kelly's right to a fair trial. They turned a blind eye to procedural violations, ignored evidence of government overreach, and dismissed legitimate concerns about witness credibility and jury integrity. The betrayal of justice in this case did not happen in a vacuum. It was facilitated by a culture within the justice system that prioritizes conviction rates over constitutional rights, public appeasement over fairness, and institutional loyalty over integrity. In fact, the R. Kelly prosecutions highlight a broader issue that affects not just high-profile defendants, but threatens the rights of every American facing the machinery of the state and large corporations like Sony. In a just system, every defendant, regardless of their celebrity status or the charges they face, is entitled to a fair trial, competent legal representation, and an impartial court. R. Kelly received none of these. What he faced was a modern-day show trial, carefully choreographed to secure a predetermined verdict while maintaining the illusion of due process. It's important to note that the implications of this hijack of justice extend far beyond one man's fate. They strike at the heart of public trust in the legal system. When the institutions we rely upon for justice are manipulated to serve political or personal agendas, the very fabric of democracy is weakened. It is no exaggeration to say that what happened in R. Kelly's trials represents one of the most egregious miscarriages of justice in recent history. The facts speak for themselves. Witness testimonies were altered, his financial resources were deliberately choked off, appropriate legal motions were unfairly denied, and jury pools were manipulated. The Bureau of Prisons collaborated in unethical monitoring and mistreatment of a pretrial detainee, and judges, rather than correcting these abuses, enabled them. This isn't justice. It's oppression dressed in legal robes. If America is to remain a nation governed by laws and not men, cases like this cannot be allowed to stand unchallenged. The conspiracy against R. Kelly is not just about a celebrity under attack. It's about a system revealing its capacity for corruption and prejudice when left unchecked. As we reflect on this case, we must demand accountability. Not just for those who actively participated in these abuses, but for the institutions that failed to prevent them. The integrity of the justice system depends on its ability to hold itself accountable, to correct its wrongs, and to ensure that no individual, regardless of notoriety, is stripped of their constitutional protections. The story of R. Kelly's trials is a warning to us all. When justice becomes a weapon and courts become accomplices, freedom itself is at risk. It's time to confront these truths and demand a return to a system that values fairness over favoritism, due process over prejudice, and integrity over institutional loyalty to big corporations that may target helpless individuals. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say. To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.